Hi, I hope you're doing well. I know that everything is up in the air in terms of travel, and everybody's not only staying home, but staying in the house, I hope. But I wanted to do some videos for you so that you can keep on planning your sabbaticals for the future, right? Because just because we can't go now doesn't mean we can't plan now to go later. Today, I'm super excited about our guest. First of all, he's the first man interviewed on the channel by himself. Big honor. I hope he appreciates that. Second of all, he makes money traveling abroad as a musician. We talked before with a couple of people about how they made money as teachers and how they made money working in resorts. Today, we're going to talk to Trevis T about how he makes money as a musician abroad. But first, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie Perry. When I was 41, I quit my job to travel for a year on savings. Now I'm a year-round house sitter, and I help Black women who want to take time off of work to travel, take time off of work to travel on a budget. If that's you, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and make sure that you ring that notification bell, and you'll be notified when I post a new video. Welcome. All right, let's get started. Okay, so welcome, Trevis.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
You're in exotic Atlanta, Georgia right now, is that right?
Right. In Atlanta, Georgia, and Quarantine City. All right.
Yeah, I'm in Dover, Delaware. At least it's not wintertime. Like,
right.
Yeah, at least it's spring. All right, so I know Trevis from Twitter and Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Trevis has taught online, but we're here to talk to him today about making music abroad. Okay, so Trevis, how would you describe your music? What kind of music do you make? You're a rapper.
Yeah, I rap. I kind of describe it as international blend of it's like hip hop, but I rap in Spanish as well. I have some Caribbean vibes to it, so it's not just like one type of thing. It's like rap mixed with other influences too. So sometimes you have some island vibes. Sometimes I might rap in Spanish. So it's kind of like a mixture of independent and international. So.
And when I met you online, you were making music in Japan, I think. You were in Japan touring on doing like the Coolest Nerd You Know tour. I think that's what you were.
The Coolest Nerd You Know tour. I think I was actually I was leaving Amsterdam to do a show in Germany. And I was like, and I think Japan was like next. Like it was on the list, but I was promoting for that upcoming.
Okay. So you're an independent artist and you set up your own tours.
Yes.
How? Like how? How do you do that?
Well, it's a lot of different steps, but typically I usually find like an area where I think I may want to go and I may have a chance of, actually reaching a certain demographic. So the first thing I do is I always like study my online presence in that area. For example, like for years, I was getting different hits in Japan. I was having website hits from Japan. Like I was having people, when I would look at my iTunes numbers, say Japan. I'm like, okay. So then I made like a Japanese website with a local company who would put everything in Japanese for me and market to people in Japan.
Okay.
So once I had that, then I was like, okay, eventually I'm gonna build up to going to Japan. But before that, what was even a bigger pool for me were people in Spain and Germany and Europe. So to get a show, I would have to kind of pick an area and then start reaching out. Just like a normal job application, send your resume, so to speak. I would send my press kits to different DJs and venues and then kind of work from there step by step.
All right. But the first step is you have to have a product out there, right? You have to have
having something released online always will help, because then you can kind of read to see, okay, is anyone in this city even listening to me? And then if no one is, that's fine. You can start promoting to that particular area just because you want to go do a show there.
Do you, how many, right now you have, I know The Coolest Nerd You Know, but you have a new album out too, right, on iTunes?
Well, I've in the last week since we've been quarantined, I released about like five singles recently. But The Coolest Nerd You Know is my latest album.
Okay.
But as far as singles, I've been like the last 2-3 weeks, I've been releasing a single like every week.
Okay.
But prior to that, I had two other albums. So one was called the Independent International, which I was trying to gain international, fans and things like that. So I kind of targeted to them. But those are always make sure that on all the social media platforms and anywhere you download music, my music can be available. So that way, it's an easy segue to talk to a promoter, club owner, or DJ if I'm on the platform that they use in their country.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you reach out to so you find a city that you want to go to, how do you find a venue? How do you
Okay.
know who to contact?
Well, it depends. I'll give you an example. Like, so in Europe, sometimes like I noticed that they weren't really open to as much a lot of independent artists coming in doing shows. That just wasn't, you weren't gonna get paid. It just wasn't an option like that.
Mm.
So I would always ask DJs, what do they suggest?
Okay.
Some DJs would be open and they'll tell you. Some DJs had no idea. Some DJs would never respond to me. So I just started taking it as, let me look. When I pick a city, let me look online and see what's becoming the most popular places for this type of music. And once I find that, then I would find like the promoter for that and reach out to that promoter. But also non-traditional, I performed at hostels, hotels, house parties, just different things that kind of like opening it up for people to kind of realize that, okay, I'm here. And I would always try to have like maybe multiple shows in the area so that one show is the big show, or that could be the moneymaker, and the other shows are just like for promotion to kind of get the buzz out. So I've done that also.
This sounds a lot like house sitting. Once you get there, you can get more gigs, right? Once you get
Yeah,
to
once you get there. So yeah, I always go, like, give you an example, for Sevilla, Spain is like where I've had the most international shows, like in Sevilla, Spain. And like I would go there and maybe I have one show set up and this is the real show. Like I call the real show. The promoter is there. I know it's gonna be good. Then I get there a few days early and I start telling people, hey, I'm gonna be performing here this day. And they say, oh really? Well, have you tried this bar? And then I go to that bar in person and and talk to them and kind of see what I can work out with them, and kind of just give myself like that window, and then I invite that club on that promoter to the show. So inviting these other clubs, venues, or people to the show always has worked for me in that way. Because like, let's say if the big show is Friday, I'll get in town on Tuesday. This will be on Tuesday. I'm telling everybody about my bit show Friday. In the meantime, somebody else will say, well, I have a club, I have a venue. Hey, do you do house parties? I'm like, well, I was gonna leave Friday after the show, but then okay, well, we know someone who owns a hotel and we'll let you stay there. We can't pay what they paid you, but we'll pay you something. And so then you start trying to, haggle and get into that zone where you're like, okay, now it's really worth it. Because you really were only going for this one show that would help you, break even and stuff like that. Now you got 2 or 3. Right.
Tell me about the house parties. What is that like?
It depends on the country. You know what I mean? Like, I give you an example. Like, so for example, like in Germany, I performed at, it was like a little bar, but they had like people house right next to it. And it was called, Yours Bar in Frankfurt. And they had like a little place in the basement that you would go and you perform in the basement of a sports bar. Okay. And then after that, everybody's like, hey, we had an after party. And like, you have to really know your surroundings and know if you want to go or not. So luckily for me in that time in Frankfurt, a lot of people spoke English there, and there was some Americans, and I kind of like checked the scene out first, you know what I mean, and kind of went in. But everybody was cool, and they kind of like took a little collection up amongst themselves, and like pay me like that at the door. So it was like, okay, cool. So it was like a bonus to the show because I was open to do that.
Yeah. That's one of the things that has been so new to me as a traveler, the idea that you just meet strangers and they invite you places and, ask you to do stuff with them.
Yeah, it was, I think when I first initially started traveling and saw that, it was weird for me. I was always thinking like, looking out, seeing if they're trying to get me or something like that. But then when I noticed that, like, okay, in some places, especially if they have something to connect you, like music, then you kind of can, seeing. And I exaggerate a lot of times, even if I'm by myself, okay, let me make a few calls, let everybody know where I'm at. And, they're like, oh, okay. So if they were going to do something, they change their mind now because he's making calls. And I mean, sometimes I was one part of Germany, I didn't even have a SIM card. I was acting like I was on the phone and they were like, okay, wait. I was like, yeah, I'm just letting everybody know where I'm at, and,
Yeah, I'm glad you talk about safety. We hear a lot of women talking about safety. We don't hear men talking about the steps that they take to stay safe. But there are things that you have to do. I do that a lot. I travel alone a lot, and I'm always like, oh yeah, my friends are at the mall right now, or stuff like that. Most of the time I feel like they know I'm lying, but I try.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a way to be safe. And I had a few run-ins, as far as and I did some great shows in Ireland, and as to people breaking into the hotel, stuff like that. You deal with certain things, but you just kind of just like you gotta be aware of your surroundings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you become a better judge of character. You kind of let go some of the barriers after a while, and just let your intuition kind of take.
Yeah, and a lot of things that's how I act anywhere I go. I'm looking at my surroundings, so it wasn't difficult for me as far as like traveling and that to peep out when somebody is doing something kind of out the way.
Mm-hmm. You said that because of music, it's easier to bond with people. Do you think that in a lot of these countries where you're traveling, where they don't have a lot of Black people and they don't have a lot of Black Americans, is it more of a help or more of a hindrance, there as a musician?
Man, it depends on the country, really. Like, for example, doing shows in Japan, I knew I was the only Black person, but I never felt it in Japan.
Okay.
I didn't feel it at all. But some parts of like northern Spain, oh man, I probably would never go back. Even since now, like I don't like to go through Madrid, like or parts of Germany, like where I was just like singled out. But then other places, it's just like they start smiling and like they show respect, they saluting me, and I think it really depends on how you're perceived in that country based on whatever they've been taught growing up and things like that. Because I mean, in southern Spain, it's like so much respect, so much respect.
Now, Sevilla is not all that far from Madrid, but you're telling me it's that different?
It is very different. No, it's it's the southern part of Spain, it's Andalusia, so it's like night and day, night and day,
okay.
night and day.
I haven't been yet. I haven't been.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta go. You can tell them I sent you. You're gonna be straight. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a college town too, so I think because it's a smaller college town, and they are used to all the people coming in, a lot of immigrants from Africa there, and they know the history, of the Moors, and like so it's different, and you can instantly notice and see the difference, just from the people there, the Gitano, which some people may call gypsies. Like you'll see like just the respect and the love that everyone has for you. And I know I've been there about maybe 5 times now, and it's like it's totally different than any other place I've been. Just well received.
Okay. I felt well received in Budapest. I don't know if I just happened to go at the right time, but I've had places like that where I felt like, like you said, in Japan, you knew that there were not a lot of Black people around, but nobody stared, and it was no. It
was normal. They were acting like it was normal for them, even though I knew it wasn't normal.
Japan, I think they must be trained from a very early age.
Yeah, like they respected and like they were so conservative. But then when I started performing, they're like, they let themselves go and start going crazy. It was cool. And back on what you were saying about Budapest, there was a hostel and hotel owner from Budapest who had some properties in Germany, who was trying for the longest to get me to do a show. Like every time I would go to Germany, they would reach out. So that was interesting that you mentioned Budapest. I never got to do that show, but that particular, she owned like 2 hotels and a hostel, and they're like, well, come, inviting me to do shows. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't there very long. It was just a short trip, but you can just feel a difference, when you're different places.
Yeah, you definitely had to feel it out, because even in Lithuania, I performed in the city center there for children. It was great, and I mean, they told me they had never seen a Black person. Some of the kids, they were like, "Yeah, we never seen a Black man." Like so cool, so cool. Yeah. But their reaction is so cool and thank you, and just very, very appreciative. And I remember even being in Germany, I finished the show and I was leaving, and they stopped me in customs like, your bag isn't big enough for how long you've been here. I'm like, what? I was like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, I think you've been in Europe for a long time, but you have a backpack.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, I used a washing machine.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, like, what? And then I just was there for a long time, and I ended up missing the show because of that. But it's
Oh.
just like, okay, just had to kind of like think, next time, don't stop at this airport or this or that. Like, this is all things that you kind of learn as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Some places you might have some pushback. Next time, fly out of Frankfurt, or stuff like that I've learned.
Yeah. And then once you're somewhere and you feel like, oh, I don't care for this vibe, you can leave. That's the joy
Yeah,
of
yeah,
working for
that's the best
yourself.
thing.
You set your own.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been in places and it just wasn't feeling right or whatever, and just like, nah, I'm gonna cancel this next show. And that's the thing too. Like, you international, a lot of times they think you're coming or they don't know for sure. So if you like in the US, most of the time you'll get like some upfront pay and things like that. A lot of international shows for independent artists, they don't pay up front a lot of times. Yeah,
Okay.
so a lot of times it's like when you get there, then you get the money, or you might get paid a portion, things like that. So I've had a lot of shows where they were like, yeah, we can do it, but let us know when you're here.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, so let me go get another show. Let me get something else going, because now I had a power to cancel that if I want to. But also sometimes, you're like, man, I wish I would have got that advance from, so-and-so. But it's just a little bit different. You have to kind of prepare yourself that way too.
Okay. So you're getting yourself to the show and you're you're supporting yourself until the show starts.
I would say yeah, like 50-50. Now in places where I've already done shows and they know me, it's different.
Okay.
I have some power now. But like my first time in Japan, no, it was just like, hey, you just get out there. Then after the show, you get that little envelope. You're like, okay. But before then, if you don't have a name in that area, it's like it's kind of hard to expect that. But also, you put yourself in a position to actually get a show because they're like, you're an independent artist. Nobody in our country knows you. Nobody in the city knows you. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're willing to come out here, then when you do a good job and everybody wants you, oh, we can pay you. We can take you to other places. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like you got to bet on yourself in that place. And but for me, I always feel like find more than one opportunity. So, I'm going to radio stations, doing, like I said, different venues, or going to a hotel and performing, or college events and stuff like that, in addition to this one show. But I've seen some artists only have one show, and I've done it before. But you put yourself in a tight position, because if that one show doesn't go through, that's it. You're stuck somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you charging like a sliding fee scale based on the venue and the,
Oh yeah, it's based on the venue and my popularity in that particular area. And if I know I've never done a show there, or I'm looking at my analytics online and I have nobody listening to the music, and like in Dublin, nobody's listening to the music at first. I waited before I went out there. Then as people started listening a little bit more, then like as soon as I had like something to kind of say, hey, I got these people listening, then I went. But even still, so I took 2 shows at a hostel first. Okay, I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Took those and then tried to funnel that into a bigger show. So that's another thing, like being able to say, well, I've performed, and then naming places that are real to the promoter. I performed at Isaac's down the street. Yeah, City Center at Jacobs. Yep, I was right by Temple Bar. Okay, go holler at DJ Holland. He knows me. See, now the promoter's like, okay, because you built that resume in his backyard, it makes more sense to them.
Okay.
Opposed to just being like this American just talking and saying you can do all these things. You have no credibility in their country. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's definitely a slide in. Then I always, I make sure that like this promoter knows that that's what I'm doing in your country. But if this goes well, then we'll have to figure something out. And a lot of promoters' first idea is like to offer accommodations first. Mm-hmm. Like it's like the first, I've seen it so many times, to the point where sometimes I say I have my own accommodations. like let's talk money. You know what I mean? And it's cool though. Sometimes like you need accommodations, but sometimes you want to try to get over that hurdle of just,
Right.
that free room and try to see what you can make out of it. And I know my very first show in Sevilla, that was one where they were just like, it was just promotion, but they were like, hey, you can have all your merch. So what I did beforehand was I actually mailed some t-shirts and stuff out there. I just did the calculation, saw it was going to be cheaper for me to actually ship it out there and like, do the long shipping where it takes a long time. And I sent it out a week and a half before I got there. When I got there, it was set up in a club and a presentation made everybody like, wow, and people were buying shirts and stuff like that. So I think it's just it depends on the place. There's not like one rule.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of try to figure out what's best for this area and my following there. Does it exist or is it non-existent, and how can I build on that?
I'm glad you brought up merch, because artists need to make money, in more than one way, more than just from like music sales or just from live performances. So you have t-shirts.
So I had some different t-shirts. And at one point, like, a lot of them were online and things like that. But now I try to just make them custom to where I'm going, and I try to find out the style in that area. I noticed that some shirts don't even sell in certain countries, so it's like a waste of time to press all those up. So before I go, I like kind of do a test run and like maybe send some pictures to a promoter or say, hey, have your bartenders look at this. Do they like it? And then kind of figure out, should I bring those or have them sent there in that place? And also things like small things that you won't even think, like wristbands do real well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like the little wristbands you put on. Yeah, I mean, those do extremely well. They're very cheap to get, and you get large quantities. But if you have the right color, you have your name on it, wristband, lanyards, even like the hair wrap hats, stuff like that. It's like, it's cool for people to just get to feel like they were there.
Wow.
And even like business cards.
Mm.
Business cards like from like Vistaprint, like with your name and all your info on it, stuff like that. People feel like kind of connected to you, and then you sign them. And then you don't ask. I'm not asking for a lot for that. Like and I usually say with even some of the wristbands and the cards, they just give a donation. It's free, but you can donate. And so then take my hat off, put it there. Everything is free, but you can donate. Then people start donating more, and I noticed they start donating more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so sometimes you can make more with saying something's free and getting donations than you can with being new in a city and expecting the promoter to really come off of that payment. It's like I've seen it work better to say, no, I just promote. Then the promoter starts like helping you out and stuff. Hey, and they start trying to help you make money too.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear you say that it was cheaper to mail your stuff ahead of time than it was to just take it with you.
Yeah, it was just depends on, like, this was when I was going to Spain, like the first time. And I had like maybe 3 shows that I wanted to do. And so what I did was I went just normal U.S. Postal Service I knew somebody at a military base.
Okay.
And so mailed it to them that way. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the way I did it there. But typically, no, I would like I would have everything rolled up in my bag and take everything with me. But the times I've done that, now you have to explain all this in customs. You're looking. I mean, I started doing international shows 2012, so I was like still hand CDs and T-shirts and things, and they're looking at me like, what? Like, what are you doing? And I'm explaining. I'll never forget. It was in Madrid. Like, they were treating me like I had like cocaine or something on me. I was in there like, just because for them, it was too much product to just be going to an event. They were like, nah, it's not a festival. We see it's a club, but what's going on? So I was all right. Let me mail some of this stuff or things like that. So it just depends.
Do you ever have a promoter say you can't sell merch, or is it always a given that you'll be able to sell stuff there?
No, it's not always a given. I'm trying to think, where was that at? Maybe only once, I think I wasn't able to sell merch. I think that was in Malaga in Spain or something like that. Maybe one time. But other than that, they're usually okay with you selling merch, especially because they know they're not paying you what they should. So they're like, okay, that's fine. But I think like once or twice I've had a promoter say I couldn't sell merch. Okay. And so then what I had to do was just kind of figure out what online platform is best in that country, and then promote that. So I think at the time that happened to me, I think Deezer was real popular in certain European countries. A music site called Deezer.
Okay.
So I let everybody know my music was available on Deezer. Because from the US, I was thinking iTunes, Amazon, and I didn't know that in that country, it was like that part of Spain, a lot of people were using Deezer. You
Oh.
know, so I'm like, okay, so just learning which platform that people download music to as much helped me out when I couldn't sell merch or wasn't allowed to for whatever reason.
Uh-huh. And then you find that your music sales do, because you're no longer selling CDs, I hope. You're not carrying CDs with
Oh
you.
no. Some countries like it. Like for example, Japan, they love physical copy.
Really?
Like they look. Oh, they're playing. You go in Japan, like in Tokyo, in a music scene. You go to the club and they're gonna put on, old record of Earth, Wind and Fire and get to it. Like so, when I saw that they're really into albums and CDs and wanting people to sign, I was
Oh.
like, okay,
Okay.
yeah. I was like, only had a few physical copies. I was like, okay, I got to go back and get more. But it's very popular in Japan and Korea right now, the physical copies, because not only are they listening to it, but they like the sign CD, and it's old school, like really old school. A lot of old CD shops and record shops. And from talking to the DJs is how I learned that.
Okay.
Because I had no idea. I was like, oh, CDs, what? But in Japan, Korea, they were like, hey, please, next time bring more. I'm like, what? It was just different for me. But it's like it's really a thing out there.
Oh, that's interesting. Are there are there companies or websites who will set up tours for independent artists?
I've talked to some of them, but for me, it wasn't cost effective. Like a lot of them wanted you to pay like a certain fee and things like that. And I'm just looking at the numbers like, no, I can do this.
I can do it.
But yeah, I wouldn't really be able to wholeheartedly advise it, because the ones I've seen, it was kind of like a lopsided like deal,
Yeah.
And I've had a few promoters that will say, hey, if you pay this, we're gonna play a song, we'll do this, and I'm like, no, I could do that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But they want it to appear to you that it's so difficult when,
Yeah.
like, it's really not. You're talking about going and investing $400 in $500 in yourself, and stay in a hostel the first time, peep the scene, meet two DJs, they like you, you got the information. When you come back, set up something and tell, hey, I'll do the first one just to do it, and the next time, pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Second time, can I get a piece of the door? Third time, the door and the bar, please. They say no, then you say, okay, well, let me piece of the door and merch. Just kind of build up to that. By the end, it's like, hey, I have an idea. I want to throw an event, and I'll have some artists, and I'll pay some artists to come. You know what I mean? And now you're the promoter. So I try to just build it up from the ground up that way.
Have you done some promotion overseas or in?
Yeah, I've done a few promotion things, like in Seville with some other artists, and we like all performed. They had some dance crews and stuff like that, and it worked out pretty good. It was just like getting there to break even. It wasn't like a big money venture for me, mainly because I think the mentality in some countries is kind of different than ours. I'm ready to work, and like some of these places, they're just enjoying them, so they're so relaxed.
Yeah.
So to get them to kind of go is like it's difficult. In some places, they're like, "Oh, we just having a good time." I'm like, "Oh man."
Yeah. The work thing is very American. Like,
Yeah.
the idea that your whole life should revolve around work is very American, and you can't export that. Like, you can't.
Yeah, they're sometimes confused. They're confused. They're like, "So hold on, you rapping, but wait," and I have a business degree, so when I'm doing things, I'm talking to them like in a business format and everything. And some people are like, wait, I thought you was a rapper. What is all this business stuff? I'm like, no, but we got to make money though. Like, try to kind of. But yeah, you can't instill that.
No, you can't. The opposite happened to me. So when I left the U.S., I lost all desire for being a hard worker. I was like,
okay.
Oh, this is how they live. Oh, okay. It's just for work hours. Work hours are not as long as here. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm
Right,
in.
right.
I'm
After,
sold.
right after the workouts, you're like, oh man, we chilling.
Chilling. We're
So here
chilling.
I am trying to do a business plan in a club to get some money. They're like, what? You just rap, but we'll pay you maybe. I'm like, what? Like, we give you some free food. You got something to drink. I'm like, nah, we need to figure out something. So
You talked
that was a
about
struggle.
you told us about how people sometimes just want to pay, just want to give you free accommodation and not pay.
Mhm.
That is exactly how things start when you're a house sitter too, right? It just starts out with free accommodation, and you have to learn how to negotiate the pay. While I
Mhm.
was traveling, I met through Tinder, right, which is a fantastic way to meet people. I
All right.
met a couple of traveling musicians who were
Okay.
doing the same thing as you. That's the first time I heard about this, that
Hmm.
you can just travel to different places and they will pay you to perform there, like
Hmm.
people at resto bars, and
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
regular.
and that's another thing, like being flexible to switch genres, like because I rap and produce, but some places like, oh, we don't want rap. I say, okay, well, hey, I'll play the piano, and so that time I'm not doing any rap. I'm just like, it's just like work for hire, playing a little tunes, whatever, and that. And then other places they're like, hey, we don't like rap. I say, okay, I'll do my Spanish songs.
Mhm.
So actually in Ireland, I did most of my Spanish songs in Ireland because
Oh,
the venue that I was at, they didn't like rap as much.
okay.
So I was flexible.
Uh-huh.
Then one of the DJs heard me and said, wait, is that what you always do? And it's like, no, I'm from Atlanta. I can do rap. And so then that opened up the door for me. So being flexible like that, like you said, is like, it helps you be able to travel and do different venues. But I mean, don't get me wrong now. I still like the ones when they offer accommodations only. And
Okay.
what I would do is I use that as, okay, that's where I'm gonna stay, and that's how I'll get that. And find another place that will pay me because I don't need accommodations. So when they ask me, so oh no, I have that taken care of. So, then I can go with the price with them. So I kind of play both so that way I can have like a nice setup.
Uh-huh. How long will they give you accommodations for? Like if you're performing just once, will they give you a week's accommodation or what?
It depends on how it's set up. I know, for example, like in Ireland, they had where if you performed at this place, you could stay for like 3 days.
Okay.
So you could stay 3 days. I think in Germany, I had something where you stay like 4 or 5 days, but they want to see if you could do two performances.
Okay.
So it just depends on the country and the place. But I know like finding that local person who may know someone always helps out because
Okay.
now you're not like you don't have like a set amount of performances you have to do. It's just like you might know this DJ and someone has a place for the stay, but at a discounted rate.
Hmm.
And I offer for the people to come to the show for free. Like, hey, if the club has a big enough name, like in Sevilla, there's used to be a place called Bandalai that and when I did my big show there, I was like, hey, I'll be performing at Bandalai. You can come. They're like, oh, you performing there? So it kind of changed how people interact with you because I got the big name venue.
Okay.
But all the time you don't have that and you don't have that leverage. But sometimes it works out nice.
So are you, like, if you're at a smaller venue, are you out getting people to come in or like using social media to get people to come in, or is it entirely up to the venue to get people in the door?
No, for me, it depends on how things are set up. I always do some promotion,
Okay.
but if I know like the venue is not really, paying me or everything's gonna be based on merch and sales, then
Mm.
at that point it's my time to do marketing. So a lot of small venues, I find myself doing like a lot of the, independent marketing, finding out, what's around there. Is there a college around there? Is there another club that's similar around there? Like, so I do a lot of research before I even accept a small venue. But a lot of times those are very, very good as far as getting your name out because those 50, 40 people inside of there, they all really know you because you've been on the Facebook page, you have them on your Instagram, you know what I mean? You just really kind of connected with that area. And then if it's a small venue, I would try to stay close to it.
Mm.
So the small venue, I would stay close to it. The show's on Friday. I might come in Tuesday, stay close to it, and learn the neighborhood. Now the neighborhood knows me, and then the neighborhood's invited to the show.
Uh-huh. That's great. Yeah, the people, the men that I met on Tinder, a couple of them were like on kind of like a tour that they'd set up to go around, but they were performing because they were like guitarists and singers. They were,
Okay.
like you said, when you play the piano, they were performing for weeks at a time at this one restaurant. Like they might perform Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the restaurant, and then they got free accommodation and meals and maybe some money or whatever for that time period. But it was for, maybe for a month or 2 months, so they did long-term gigs. And then I also met a DJ who just was doing his own tour. Like he'd set up his own tour and he was, doing, that's how I learned about this. And I was like, I need to learn how to play the guitar. I need a skill. I can't do it. I look like I can sing, but I can't. So.
Right. No, it definitely helps, and there are always different options at different types of venues. If you're open to different types of venues, then I think that like it can work for you.
All right. Is there any place that you're not? You said that you talked about how northern Spain was no good for you. Any other place that just was not hitting?
I'm trying to think. I went to the Philippines after my show in Japan.
Okay.
And it was a lot of people trying to scam when it came to shows. And yeah, it was tough. Like some of the promoters just weren't honest and things like that. So the next time I think about doing a show there, I probably would have a local person that's gonna kind of like help me navigate, just because it was crazy in terms of how they were interacting and things like that. But it's a lot of places are like that if you don't know someone there. Sure. And I think in Spain, I'm fluent in Spanish, so that's why Spain is always easiest for me to kind of really like get into business mode. But I would say like, yeah, like pretty much I haven't had that many issues at different places with doing shows.
That's good. Manila, was it Manila? Because Manila is probably one of my least favorite places.
Yeah, Manila. It was Manila.
Yeah. The islands in the Philippines are gorgeous.
Right.
They are my favorite places. But
but
Manila is terrible.
Yeah, and funny because once I left, it was a DJ who was saying I need to come outside of the city of Manila, and they're telling me to come when I come back and stuff like that. So I may be able to go back, and they're telling me more so like Cebu and areas like that. So I'm like, okay, all right. Next time around.
I think the problem would be for a performer in the Philippines is that all Filipino people believe that they are amazing singers. They are very good singers, but this is the only place I've ever been where you walk down the street at night and everybody is singing karaoke in their house. Like,
yeah, it was weird because people I didn't even think could sing at all. They would swear that they were like the best ever, and I was like, okay. Different.
Yeah. But I think that being a black traveler in Asia probably gives you some extra points, right? They're probably like, oh, you get some extra status.
Right. I mean, that's how I felt in Japan. Like, like it was, it was cool. But I would say like my best international shows probably was Japan first, and then Sevilla, Spain. I liked performing in Brazil. I performed at a school, so for some middle schoolers. Yeah, it was cool because I taught them some English first, and then I kind of performed in the class and stuff like that. So that was cool.
Wow, that's amazing. Was that a trip where you just flew down for that performance, or had you been in Brazil for a while?
Oh no, it was the same setup where I was setting up a tour for Brazil, and so I started in Sao Paulo, and then that show didn't even materialize. But I knew a guy there, so we went to a few clubs. I met some connects. Then I went down to Americana, and then there was a school there, and I was going there to perform at the school. So performed at the school. They loved it, and then I went down to Rio, and I performed on the beach there.
Oh, that's awesome. Brazil changed my life. I have a nice soft spot for Brazil. Brazil is where I went on vacation and learned about like long-term travel.
Nice. Yeah, they were so nice. The people were so nice to me. Like in Brazil, like it was like, yeah, it was.
You mean the women? I know what you're saying.
No. I mean, everybody in general, like, nobody was like, just like really just, I didn't feel like okay, I'm in a different country or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like it was cool. So even like the show that ended up happening on the beach because one of the guys had saw me. He said, "Oh, I seen you before." Because like the week before, I was like, performing or whatever, like online and just putting up clips. And I
Uh-huh.
was like hashtagging Brazil or whatever. And he had saw me on Instagram.
Mhm.
He had saw me on Instagram and told me like he had a band and was like, hey, we're gonna perform in a few. And it was like quick. So we ended up performing. They had the guitars and they were doing that. And they were singing and then I rapped like my verses and stuff. So it ended up cool.
Uh-huh. Do you feel like social media has, like, how important is social media for an independent artist who's trying to set up their own tour
I
around?
think it's really important, and also to focus on where you're trying to go. Um, that's one thing I can say that helped me, because as soon as people saw me in Japan, then I can get booked other places. So I've used that a lot of times, like just the video. There was a video I had called like Buck Wild. I was doing a show at University of Central Florida, and we were performing. I put it online, and that's what I sent to all the promoters in Spain to get my very first show in
Okay.
2012 overseas. I sent them a clip that was on YouTube. That's what I sent to all the promoters in Spain.
Okay.
And so from that point on, I got on Instagram a little bit late because I was traveling around the world and just doing everything. And it was like, okay, wait, I can do this on Instagram. So now I send Instagram posts and pictures to different promoters to let them see, like, I've been to other countries, so I'm not new to this region
Mm-hmm.
or not new to this area, because they have no idea.
Right.
And and I've noticed that it's not like you were saying, like it's not like the USA where independent culture is, like, as far as like music things. There's like either you're famous or you're not.
Yeah.
Anybody in between, they're like, yeah, whatever. No, so you have to kind of educate them on that. Like, no, I've done this before. Look here, I had 100 people here. I had 2,000 here. Like, I do small crowds, do weddings, bar mitzvahs. Like, you have
Uh-huh.
to really kind of sell it to them. And social media helps out a lot. And so the majority of anybody who follows me online is probably from a different country.
Mhm.
And that's why I get DJs to hit me up and we talk and stuff like that, because that's what they're comfortable with.
Uh-huh.
Before, when I wasn't using social media as much, it was harder. I was working harder.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can work. If I use that same work ethic and use social media, it's much easier.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to cancel plans this spring and summer?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are you missing?
Yeah, right now, well, the first thing was because the show in Japan did so well this past year. We were setting up for me to perform like close to some after parties with the Olympics in coordination with that.
Oh,
Yeah, because I performed at Heavy Sit Zero in Japan, and it was great. Like, they loved it. All the DJs liked it, and it was my first time performing in Japan. So it changed everything as far as like being able to perform in Asia. And so a Japan tour specifically was being set up,
yeah.
and yeah, as soon as this whole thing started, that went completely out the window. And then the backup was to kind of go back, back in Spain, but Spain and Italy got hit so hard. It's like, yeah,
Leave them
yeah.
alone.
So when we finally do get off quarantine, then it'll be back to the US tours. And I always do US tours. Like, I love to do that.
Yes.
Different parts of the US, and kind of take some of the same things I've learned from traveling overseas and apply it here.
Mhm.
And then, your marketing dollars can go further here, and because you know how it's set up. And,
Mhm.
you know, so I definitely that's how I'm gonna ramp back up. It's probably doing it here in the US,
Okay.
because I think overseas won't be for for a minute.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
minute. Same with house sitting. I'm glad that you're making music, though. I'm glad that you're not sitting home like
Yeah.
I've been. I've just been in the bed for approximately 4 weeks. I've just been,
Come on, Steph. Come on, Steph. We need them videos. You the house sitting homie. You the gap year guru. Come on now.
I haven't had it in me. New moon. There's a new moon tonight, and I woke up today feeling pretty energized. So maybe I'm turning the corner.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, I got the soundtrack for you to help you pump you up.
I
Okay.
know you do. I know you do. Thank you. All right. I want to end up just talking quickly about fear, because the first time that you went overseas, you didn't know, you have a gig booked, you don't know if it's going to go through, you don't know if it's going to work out. So what was the like little fear in your ear? What were your fears, and how were you able to push through and still get on the plane and go?
So the first fears as far as like going overseas and like doing the show was just like, will it work? And if it doesn't, I'm just gonna be in some different country and it didn't work. You know what I mean? One thing I just thought about is like, if I don't try, I will always wonder what would have happened. You know, and that was one thing that was like just hit me. It was like, yeah, if you don't try, you will never know. And like this could change your life. So I thought about like this quote from one of my favorite movies, Emmy of the State. And when Gene Hackman always says, you know, maybe it's something, maybe it's everything. Let's get in and find out. And that's how I just kept telling myself, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's everything. You want to travel, just do it so you can know. And I'm so glad I did because it was 2012 when I did the first international show that changed my entire life. It's like no matter what's going on, it's always been like this travel element. But I had to really just say, just do it. And when I got there, the funny story is that so I had a show booked, and there was another club that said they might let me do a performance, but I I wasn't sure. So I just had to just go in and talk to the manager. So I went in like I think it was like a Tuesday. I went in the club and he's looking at me like, "What? You want to perform?" And then I started talking to him in Spanish because we're in Spain, and he was like, "Whoa, you speak Spanish?" I kept talking to him, and he was like, "I mean, if you come, then maybe I'll let you perform." I was like, "All right," and I went back the very next day, dressed, ready to perform, act like he told me yes. Walked up in the DJ booth, and the DJ was like, "Who are you?" And as soon as the DJ was saying that, I pointed to the owner and was like, "Yeah, we talked yesterday, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, go ahead." You know, but I wasn't getting paid or anything, but it was just I did that, and he was so surprised that I came back and just went into the DJ booth. And then when I performed, people started like clapping and putting their hands up, and then I looked at the owner and I was like, and so I stopped, and he was like, "Oh man, what's going on?" I was like, "No, next time you got to pay me," and I left. And that was like my introduction into like that particular place, and it was just like that rush that you feel because it's like, man, no, but these people don't know me. I'm in a different country. I'm gonna try. And as time went on, it definitely works out. Like it's not like here. I think in the U.S. a lot of times you're conditioned to like certain things based on the popularity. And I've noticed when I travel to different countries, if they like it, they like it.
That's right.
They don't care if you're famous. They don't care. If it's jamming, you're jamming. If they like it, they like it. It's not about who you know. It's not. They have no idea and they do not care. If they like your music, they'll rock with you. And that's one thing I can appreciate when it comes to international is that they'll be honest with you. If they don't like it, they don't. If they do, they do. And you can just find your crowd. So that once I figured that out, I was like, I can find my crowd, anywhere, any country. This definitely what I'm gonna keep in my tool bag and kind of utilize that.
Fantastic. So artists, performers out there who want to set something up for themselves, they need to have a product online. They need to know how to look at the data to find out where they should go, right? Or where it makes most sense to go. They need to be able to pitch themselves, make a case for why they should, why a promoter should want them in their establishment, right? They need to know how to parlay a gig into multiples. And then they also need to have some extra income, right? Merch and stuff.
Right. Any type of extra income, even being open to being a hype man or anything, like using the fact that you speak English is valuable, and in other places. So you have to be able to use that and be flexible. But yeah, I think those are some of the key points that have really changed things for me and make it like a reality of going out there. And that's why, for so many years, it's like I can have multiple different tours and here and there, in different countries.
Fantastic, Trevis. So tell everybody where you want them to follow you. Where can they get your music and where can they see more from you?
Okay. Well, you can get my music on any platform, Spotify or iTunes. It's Apple Music, Trevis T, Trevist. And you can follow me on Instagram, Trevis T Official. Okay, it's Trevist Official. That's on Instagram, and on Twitter, I'm at Trevis T.
All right, so all the links will be in the description. So you can click down in the description, make sure that you follow Trevis, and go ahead and go on over to iTunes or wherever you buy your music. Go ahead and just get it. Now, if you have any other people that you'd like to talk to, guys, or anybody else who makes music in any particular way, send them my way. If you want them to, you know, share their information, whether it's you or somebody you know, I'm open because I'm ready to get out of the bed and do some stuff, make some more videos. So send anybody my way who you'd like to, you know, get some more information from about how they make money while they're out of the country, out of the, you know, overseas. All right, Travis, I really appreciate you.
All right, thank you, appreciate
Thanks.
it.
We'll see you.